Julius Caesar's name is forever etched into the fabric of history. He was not simply a man who rose to power, he was a symbol of both the promise and the peril that come with absolute authority. From his rise as a young politician to his legendary military conquests and his eventual assassination, Caesar's life and legacy shaped not just Rome, but the entire course of Western history. This script seeks to provide a detailed look into the life of Julius Caesar, offering a comprehensive exploration of his military genius, his political acumen, his complex personal relationships, and the forces that ultimately led to his assassination. We will also examine the profound consequences of his death, which resulted in the end of the Roman Republic and the dawn of the Roman Empire. Julius Caesar's birth in 100 BC came at a time when Rome was a republic embroiled in political and social unrest. Born into the patrician Julian family, which claimed a connection to Venus, Caesar's family did not possess the vast wealth or influence that some of their political rivals enjoyed. Instead, his family struggled to maintain their political relevance in a rapidly changing world. Caesar's early life was shaped by the rise of political factions such as the Populares, the People's Party, and the Optimates, the elite Senate-controlled party. He grew up under the shadow of the fierce rivalry between the two factions and saw firsthand the political chaos that plagued Rome. The assassination of his father, Gaius Julius Caesar, when Caesar was only 16, marked a major turning point in his life. It pushed him into the orbit of powerful political figures and made him more determined to secure a place of power for himself. During this time, Caesar was also affected by the struggles of the time. Marius and Sulla, two of the most influential generals of the age, fought for control over Rome, leaving a trail of blood and chaos. Caesar's alignment with Marius led to conflict with Sulla's faction, and it became clear that political maneuvering would be necessary for survival. At 18, Caesar began his career in public service, serving as a military tribune, a stepping stone into the Roman political system. But it was his service in Asia Minor, later in Spain, that truly tested his military leadership. The time spent away from Rome allowed him to witness the broader complexities of the Roman world, and the lessons he learned would help shape his future as a leader. Political ambitions and the formation of the triumvirate. By the time Caesar returned to Rome, he was no longer just the scion of an old family. He was a politically astute individual who understood the intricacies of Roman politics and the significance of alliances. His first major political achievement was his election as quaestor in 69 BC, followed by his appointment as aedile and then praetor. Each position allowed him to build connections with various factions and solidify his status as a rising star. Yet it was his collaboration with two other powerful figures, Pompey the Great and Crassus, that would propel Caesar to the peak of Roman politics. In 60 BC, they formed the First Triumvirate, a political alliance that would dominate Roman affairs for several years. Pompey, with his military glory, and Crassus, with his immense wealth, complemented Caesar's own talents for persuasion and political strategy. The Triumvirate was not an official government body, but a pragmatic coalition between three men who, together, could influence the Senate in the political direction of Rome. With Pompey's military backing and Crassus's resources, Caesar was able to secure the consulship in 59 BC, which marked a high point in his political career. However, as with many political alliances, the initial harmony began to falter. Pompey's growing rivalry with Caesar became apparent when Pompey's soldiers began to feel alienated by Caesar's growing influence. Caesar's increasing popularity among the plebeians, common people, also caused concern for Pompey, who had once been the darling of the Roman masses. Similarly, Crassus's ambitions of financial power and influence clashed with the other two men's political goals. The Gallic Wars and military genius Caesar's appointment as governor of Gaul in 58 BC was a turning point. Gaul, which comprised modern-day France, Belgium, and parts of Switzerland and Germany, was a region of immense strategic importance, but it was also a land rife with tribal conflicts. For Caesar, it was an opportunity to prove his military prowess and to gain the wealth and resources necessary to further his political goals. Over the next 8 years, Caesar would conduct a series of campaigns that would see him decisively conquer Gaul. His military genius was demonstrated time and time again through his tactical innovations, use of intelligence, and the loyalty of his troops. His Commentari de Bello Gallico, which detailed the Gallic Wars, became a testament to his strategic brilliance and self-aggrandizing nature. His army was often outnumbered, but Caesar's ability to inspire his soldiers, coupled with his tactical ingenuity, allowed him to consistently triumph over larger Gallic forces. His conquest of Gaul was not without cruelty, however. After the Battle of Alesia in 52 BC, where Caesar decisively defeated the Gallic leader Vercingetorix, Caesar's military approach became increasingly harsh. Entire tribes were wiped out, and those who surrendered were often enslaved. These campaigns were costly in human lives, yet they provided Caesar with significant wealth, spoils of war, and the loyalty of an army that had seen him as their heroic leader. The Gaul campaigns also bolstered Caesar's political standing in Rome, as the Senate, though largely unaware of the full scale of his actions, saw him as a conquering hero who had expanded Roman dominion. However, his success came at a cost. The Senate, increasingly wary of his power, began to call for Caesar to return to Rome and relinquish his command. Crossing the Rubicon and civil war. The political situation in Rome had grown increasingly tense. Caesar's military success had made him extremely powerful, and his alliances with Pompey and Crassus began to unravel. With Crassus's death in 53 BC, Pompey became Caesar's primary rival, and the two men's relationship deteriorated. In 49 BC, Caesar was ordered by the Senate to disband his army and return to Rome. However, Caesar refused to give up his command. Faced with the prospect of losing everything he had gained, Caesar made the fateful decision to cross the Rubicon River, a boundary that Roman generals were forbidden to cross with their armies. By doing so, Caesar effectively declared war on Rome and set in motion a civil conflict that would change the course of history. Caesar's decision to cross the Rubicon is one of the most iconic moments in Roman history. The phrase "crossing the Rubicon" has become synonymous with making an irreversible decision. Caesar's army marched south, meeting Pompey's forces in several key battles, culminating in the Battle of Pharsalus in 48 BC. Despite being outnumbered, Caesar's forces decisively defeated Pompey's troops. Pompey fled to Egypt, where he was eventually murdered, and Caesar returned to Rome as its undisputed ruler. Dictatorship and political reforms. Upon his return to Rome, Caesar was given unprecedented powers. In 46 BC, he was named dictator for 10 years, and in 44 BC, he was appointed dictator for life. This concentration of power raised alarms within the Senate, as many feared that Caesar was setting the stage to become a monarch. However, Caesar's reign was marked by a series of important reforms aimed at stabilizing the Roman state. He restructured the Senate by increasing its size and adding representatives from the provinces. He also introduced reforms to the Roman calendar, creating the Julian calendar, which would remain in use for over 1,600 years. In addition to these reforms, Caesar also sought to address the social and economic problems facing Rome. He enacted land reforms that redistributed land to veterans and the urban poor, and he provided food distributions to the needy. His policies were designed to secure loyalty from the people and his military supporters, but they alienated many of the aristocracy who saw their power slipping away. The Ides of March and the aftermath. By 44 BC, Caesar's grip on power was unchallenged, but his actions had created enemies within Rome's ruling class. A group of senators led by Brutus and Cassius, who had once been his allies, conspired to assassinate him. They feared that Caesar's growing power would lead to the fall of the Republic and the establishment of a monarchy. On March 15, 44 BC, Julius Caesar was assassinated in the Senate chamber. According to legend, when Caesar saw Brutus among his attackers, he uttered the famous words, "Et tu, Brute?" And you, Brutus? The death of Caesar sent shockwaves through Rome, but it did not restore the Republic. Instead, it plunged Rome into a period of civil war that would ultimately end with the rise of Caesar's adopted heir, Octavian, later Augustus, who would become the first emperor of Rome. Caesar's assassination marked the end of an era, but his legacy lived on. His reforms, military conquests, and political strategies transformed Rome and paved the way for the Roman Empire, which would dominate the Mediterranean world for centuries to come. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more amazing content.